What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Bill, and in today's video Matt is back out here with his Badlands Bronco. It's been on the channel before. We've done some work with Matt in the past, and today we have the Diabolical Slipstream system that's going to be going in the back here. So far we just got the box open, and it's got a tray in there. Looks like it's very well packed in there. But if you're not sure what this slipstream is, it's just the cargo enclosure area. It's supposed to be very sturdy. It goes across almost like a tonneau cover on a hard tonneau cover on the back here. So we're gonna get this unpacked, see what all's involved, and then work on getting this installed. One of the first things says remove these front caps, which they just pry out, so you have access to the D-ring bolts. Now, I don't think we had to remove the rings completely. We're just taking those front bolts out, and then we're going to put a bracket in there and replace these bolts. So we'll leave them in position so we don't lose them, and then pull these off. Now, this whole panel is really kind of flimsy. I noticed, like, if you try pulling this, the whole panel starts to pull off, so you kind of have to brace the panel to be able to pull these clips out. Otherwise, you start kind of flexing the whole thing, and then you can end up with like little white stress fractures or stress marks in the plastic. So just be careful when you're pulling those off, but it just snaps right out. Then same on this side. Like, you see how flimsy that whole thing is if you start messing with it. So kind of brace that and pull against it, and voila. Now, if you had a hard top, these bolt holes would be empty, and you'd do the brackets to them. I believe for the soft top it's going to be slightly different. All right, so these bolts that we took out, we're going to install these floor brackets, and it's two holes. There's a long one and a wide one. Long one goes down. Just going to go through that hole. And helps if I show what I'm actually doing. Just goes in. I'll leave that loose for right now until we get everything lined up, and then we can come back and tighten everything. And then same thing on this side. It just starts recording as soon as it comes on. All right, so it said that once this is all said and done, that this plastic piece here may end up rubbing a bit. So just mark where these brackets are, and then later there will come a time where we need to trim back about 1/8 of an inch off of that plastic, but we'll get to that. For now, just going to go ahead and mark it while we have this easily exposed. In the instructions, it says to use the carriage bolts with the washers and washers and nuts. So the bags are marked. There's accessory panel bag, bag with the hinges, and then there's this bag, which apparently has all of the carriage bolts, and it looks like they're all the same size. So it's all the same washers, all the same nuts, all the same bolts, which is beautiful. I love to see that they used all the same size hardware. It's not, oh, we got to figure out which bolt goes here and which goes there. Same bolts go everywhere for the most part, other than those specific areas which are called out. So thank you for doing that. So what we want to do now is we have this lower wall support which is going to install like so. And then we're going to put a carriage bolt through that there, and washer and nut on both sides. I'm going to use a rubber mallet. Line that up right in the center of the slot. And give it a... There. Now that'll work. Do the same thing on this side, and then we should be able to get that in. Now, get those in. They should line up with... Here we go. Amazing how long it took to put 2 screws in. But now that they're wedged in there good, we can get that tightened. Alright, that's in there somewhat snug, but now we can go ahead and tighten these down. The 10mm on the bottom. So normally I would still wait to see what we installed after this before tightening anything, but this is what we're going to line other things up to. We just want to make sure this bottom piece is snug on the bottom. This left side seems like it's good. This right side seems to be sticking up a little bit. I'm going to loosen this up. There we go. And just push down, make sure it's tight along the floor. Alright, so we're running out of daylight here. So if you have the hard top, the instructions they provide say that you're supposed to use these brackets. They'll line up like so and sit like that. However, if you have the soft top on here, you have this bracket in front of there, and that's not going to work. So you actually have these smaller brackets here that are going to reuse the factory hardware, bolt in there, and then provide you with that same leverage up there. These were the only 2 bolts. I would probably get one started before taking the other one out. There we go. Now let's get these kind of close to snug, but not tight until we get things lined up again. Okay, so if you're on the hard top, you don't have these little brackets on here where the soft top latches to. So you would just add what they're calling the multi-bend bracket right there with the supplied hardware that they give you. However, since this is a soft top and has that, we're going to take this off, which is an 8mm, and there's an alignment hole and then a screw hole. We're just going to put that back, line that back up, and screw it right back in. Now this bracket's going to be the front mount, and then you still have the latch back here for your soft top, and then it's going to be the same for the passenger side. Alright, so these brackets are going to be in the front where I guess there's a front piece that flips down, and then when you close it up, it's going to rest up against here. To prevent that from rattling and making noise, they give you some foam. I'm just using some isopropyl alcohol. Wipe this off just so we have a good clean surface to stick to. Now I know they gave us extra screws and everything. I don't know how much extra of any of this they sent in the roll if it's very tight tolerances, but I have a feeling they gave you plenty, so if you screw up that there's some to work with. Now this, when you have these sitting down like so, these are going to go along the front end. These are going to set flat on top, and you want to leave this top hole here open and just line up the next 3 down. And use the same carriage bolts that we used up there. Here you can see they fit into these much better. They pop perfectly in. Then a washer and a nut. And here we just hold that screw into the hole, square hole. And these we can tighten down because there is no adjustment there. It lines up perfectly. Those holes are tight. There's no wiggle room there. And they did say there is no torque specs for this. They have the nylocks in there, so they're not going anywhere. If that's good enough for the manufacturer, that's good enough for me. There we go. All right, so we have the side wing walls complete, and then we have the top side rails, and that's going to get a similar treatment, but instead of using the soft foam from the front that the front has, they've supplied some hard foam, just because it's on top. If you put weight down on it, it'll ruin that foam in no time, where a little bit harder foam will last, prevent it from rattling, anything going up and down. So these should just, they're cut a little long, but they'll just go right along the frame, these rails, just like so. All right, so we have the 2 wing walls, and you can tell which one goes which because the way the cutout goes, it only lines up one way. Let's do one at a time. There we go. Now when we first stuck this in there, I thought, wait, that doesn't line up at all, but if you actually position it right, it lines up pretty good. And once everything's in place, there's a small gap down here. It seems not to line up perfect, but it's pretty good. The same washer and 7/16 nut on the back side here. Alright, so one side's in, do the same thing, and it's just these 2 carriage bolts, nut and the washer on each one. Yeah, I said it right that time. So then we're going to put these top side rails in. Need 2 screws, 2 washers, 2 nuts, and that's why we left that first hole open, so we can put that in, and then stick that in as well, and hopefully that'll hold in place long enough that we can get a washer and a nut on there. Alright, so the next part, the frame is kind of built out. Now we can start putting the skin on. The top has top 2 pieces. You can tell this is the left because it's got the extra cutout for the hoses, for the hose and the electrical connector for the hard top. If you have the soft top on, it'll just fit under there, but if you have hard top, you could feed it up through that crack. And this just kind of slides right on top. And there it goes. Fits right underneath. Fits in, and then there's a bunch of holes that we're going to line up and drop the carriage screws in, and then the same thing on the passenger side. Just slides right into place. It kind of slides under the body panel here and then right into place, and we should be able to drop all our bolts in and then add washers and screws from the bottom. So yeah, just dropped all the screws in, put the nuts and bolts in underneath. On a lot of them I found it was easier to hold the nut and washer in my hand like that and hold it up there and screw the bolt down a little bit. And now that they're started, I can just hold the top and tighten them down. There was 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 on this side. Probably similar number on that side. All right, now that those are all tightened, this is all tightened up, and go back in and tighten these bolts down that we loosened up, that kept loose until we got everything lined up. Now that's all nice and good. I'm going to snug those down before we forget about them, and that should be good on this side, and then repeat the same thing on the opposite end. All right, pro tip: don't put all these screws down. You want to keep these 4, 1, 2, 3, yeah, these 4, keep these open, because we have to put the tie down on there first and drop those bolts in. So I gotta undo these, and then we'll put them back in with the tie down in place.
Wrench kit.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we got these in. They're not tightened yet. Also loosened these back here, just so we could make sure that plate was loose. We tightened the 13mm bolts there and got everything lined up so we could get this plastic piece reinstalled. And now we'll keep this loose for right now.
We figured it out too. It was like,
You know, so sorry, listening to that, I got distracted. So everything's on there. It's not tight, but we'll wait. I'll get to do the same thing on this side. I put these bolts in, shouldn't have, so I'll take those out, drop them in like we have over here, make sure everything's lined up, and make sure this is lined up. We'll tighten those bolts down, put the plastic piece in, and then we can tighten the top down and everything. All right, so now we got the panels in, we got the tie downs on, frames in. Going to put some foam on here. Now this is going to be the front panel, and it has the extra access door, so there's hinge bolts here, and we're going to use the same foam just along this edge and these 3 edges, and then so when you close that door it's not going to rattle or make any noises. Now we got the access panel itself, and there's a lock that comes with it, so we gotta bang this in there, and he said it's going to be a tight fit, and that's not a lie. So you're just going to bang that in with the rubber mallet.
Cameraman.
That actually went in much easier than I expected it to. So now we got the piece in. We can put this bolt on the back side of it to retain that. And then the locking cylinder just slides right in. And on the back end, we'd have this, but I'm going to make sure it's going to lock. Yeah. As it goes up, goes down, up or down. That seems to make sense to me. I'll put the screw back in. Now this lock came all together as one piece, but we had to take it apart just to get it in there. And I left the screwdriver over there, so let me grab that. Okay, so there is a small magnet here, I believe. Yes. Now, it included a magnet, you're supposed to flip this over. I'm gonna go put this on a pad over here so we can work. And now this magnet just going to go right on top here, so when the lock's latching, it's rubbing up against that magnet and not the powder coat. So just stick that on there on the opposite end of the hinges, so where the lock's going to be. The magnet just sticks, doesn't do really any magnety things, but now I've moved this over to here instead of where we are so we can lay this flat. So now the door can sit right on top. There's a spacer bar. It's going to go right underneath. That's the same thickness as the door. And these hinges should just drop right into those holes.
You tell me that could come together like that.
Now, the trick is to try to flip this over without those coming unhinged. Yes. And now we have a bunch of little screw heads sticking up that we got to put washers and nuts on. And these are actually not the 7/16, they're the smaller ones, but they were in the bag for just this hardware. And I also realized we put this hinged on, or this clasp on, upside down, because that's not going to lock anything. Oh. Okay, so now we've got the door on there, and this door is tight. You turn that thing is tight on there. It's hard to turn that key a little bit because it's rubbing up against that magnet, but does the job, and that definitely holds that nice and tight. That's not going to make any noise. So that panel is done and ready to go. Give Matt his key before we lose it and go on to the next step. All right, so we just laid the door in there. We got some pins and we've got some pieces of cardboard, and let's climb in. Now, oh, thank you, sir. The pin's just going to go right through the hole in here and through, and somehow, there we go, like so. And do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to close this, and the cardboard's just to see if you have the same amount of space on each side, which we don't even have enough space to fit both pieces of cardboard in there, because Ryan had to get us the thickest cardboard ever known.
On me.
But it actually, look, I'm going to go ahead and put these pins in on the top, and wow, that foam, I thought this was going to rattle when I saw this was just held with pins, but that foam is pretty thick and you're gonna have to compress it. It's got to be compressed pretty hard to get that pin through there. There, so that's not going to rattle around. So the reason for the cardboard is you want to check the spacing all around, and then you can tighten up everything. We kind of already tightened up everything, so hopefully it fits. If not, we'll have to loosen things up and adjust accordingly. But hey, I gotta put this pin in on this side.
Hey, who cut that? That's nice.
It just slides in. And like I say, you gotta put some pressure on that seal to get that to close. And then we can lock these down here as well. Now that's, I don't know, that seems like these little locks.
We'll see.
We'll see. You'll have to let us know if you hear that at all when you're driving. But you can see front seat's down. Oh, we can see the directly into the sun.
That's on me. That's on me.
Or no, I'm talking about the I got these
Your big ass light.
my big lights. So yeah, it's a solid wall there on the front. You're not going to get in through that, so unless you have the key. So that's all pretty good. Okay, so it seems like we are getting close to the end here. Now we got to configure the top. We have these larger hinges that are included, and we're just going to drop that in on the big piece. I think the big piece goes furthest forward, and then the smaller piece. And we're just going to set that right on top. Like so. And then we can put the nuts and washers. These are 10 millimeter. So we'll do that on this side, then we'll flip it over, put the nuts and washers on the other side, and then keep them somewhat loose until we get everything lined up, and then we'll tighten everything down. Now I'm just going to flip this over. Or not. Tried to do it in one motion, but that's alright. Just set them down. And same thing, washers, bolts. And snug them, but not fully tighten them. Now we just have this thicker, soft doohickey gasket seal. Yeah, so we just have this goat gasket.
We have this goat gasket.
It's going to go along the front side of the big panel here.
Anti-rattle stuff.
This is going to be facing the back the back seat.
It's going to fill the gap.
It is going to fill the gap, and it rattles and makes a bunch of noise. We haven't tightened anything yet.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Does not play well with others.
JBL.
Yeah.
We'll just cut the speaker.
Just grind the speaker down a little bit. Yeah.
As long as it's...
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
That'd be alright.
Truck it, sorry.
Set that in there. Okay, so when we laid this down and you line the pins up to where everything's gonna go in, there's 3 pinholes on each side. It really seems like that's sticking out way too far because the way the seals are, and we thought there's no way that could be right because they're still supposed to put this piece on there and if the tail skin on there. And if you look at that, the way it sits right now, it seems like there's no way possible that could be correct. Turns out it is. I didn't realize when you close this, that's quite a bow. So even though it looks like it's almost flush there, the bow in the back of that tailgate actually is far enough out that that all will fit in there. So we gotta put these pins in. There's 3 on each side. And then we got 3 bolts to put the tail skin in. Slide the pins in. There we go. Oops, sorry, sir. Got 1 in. 2 in. Three. Then the same thing on the other side. Now, so now that's nice and tight. We could make sure those are pulled together, and those pins are holding that. And we can tighten these hinges down. That rattling was these hinges. They're not tight. So that's Matt goes, what the hell was that now? Okay, hold it, and I need 10 or the 7/16. No, 10. Those are 10 millimeter. And again, try not to over tighten them and break the hinges because that would suck. Yeah, I thought we were all done with this big bag of screws, and I thought we had that many extras, but we need three more washers, nuts, and dryers. Jesus. Washers, nuts, and bolts, nuts, and washers. Man, senility's kicking in. Alright, and now tail skin, and it said to do it upside down, right?
Yeah, lower.
Like it's facing down, like so. Let's put our bolts in.
Back in, didn't break it.
Try to have nice things.
There we go.
And throw a washer and a nut on the back side. Alright, and then we got a washer and a dryer for this one. Safe skin tail skin protection to go on. This little channel that'll slide on there. I don't know if it's easier to press it on or slide it on. Yeah, pressing it on is much easier once you get it started. And now you don't have metal rubbing up against the back of your tailgate. All right, so yeah, we've got this seal on. You just need to trim the excess. All right, so that is on there. It's snug. That top is not easy to open. Now, the next test is will this tailgate close without Seems like it's got to go up a little bit. Huh. Yeah, it hits this lip a little bit and it's pushing it up, and we could push it up in here a little. The top's going to push it right back down, so it's going to be snug right up against there. We could raise this up a little bit because these are slotted, so let's raise that up a bit, and then it might make the top a little harder to close, but
Let's see.
Because that was definitely hitting and then pushing up a bit.
So,
all right, that's up a little higher. Let's see how that looks as it's closing. Much better.
much better.
Like a glove.
Yeah. Now,
Now the top.
can we actually close the top while that's closed?
No.
All right, so small issue here. If we just slam this down, we're actually, because these latches got pushed in further, you're hitting here on the latch, so it's not pushing. It takes a whole lot more force to try to push that open from here than it does when it's pushing right there. And if you keep slamming down on that, you're gonna break those latches. But I thought maybe we could adjust this a little bit since we did have it loose. But the issue isn't the position of it, it's that it's pushed in further because it's got that piece of metal behind it. Oh yeah, they should.
Yeah.
All right, so lessons learned. When we put these back in, they were a little low. We were able to push these forward to those alignment pins were all the way at the top, and that made getting these latches done a little easier. And then there are two 10mm bolts on the back side. We loosened that and we were able to move this in just a bit so it's hitting on the curve and not directly a direct hit. So it does close. It's kind of, these rest right on top of there, so it doesn't make a pretty sound when it closes. It because you hear them snap right on top of that metal, but it closes. It's a little harder to open because you don't have a full reach on those levers, because you're pushing right about here because this top part of the lever is actually sitting on top of there. So could notch that out if it becomes an issue.
I don't think it will be.
And then now the last thing we need to well, he put his Diabolical ink stick. Those are nice stickers they include. And got to close the front and see if we can get these pins in now that we got the top on. Oh. Is it much easier to squeeze in here without the top on? Ah, like a glove.
Like a glove.
Beautiful. See if his little cubby door opens.
Where did I put the key? It's in my pocket somewhere. Here.
I know, I have it on. I have video evidence that I gave it to you.
I have it.
Open the hatch. Then you can stick your skis through there. So clean this up. There is enough space there, hopefully. Let's make sure that we could feed.
Wires.
Yeah. Plenty of room there so he can run his wires back in, hook his sub back up. Now you did lose access to that MOLLE panel on the back of the seat.
See if the seat folds up.
Yeah, that's a good point too. We never checked to see if the seats close. Do they go all the way back too? Yep.
Yep.
And if you lift up on it and push back, it goes back another little thing. Beautiful. Or you like these up or down?
Up.
All right.
Can't see anyway.
Yeah, everything's.
Can't see anyway, it don't fucking matter.
So yeah, it was
Easy.
it was the longest 20 minutes. Well, I thought for sure this was going to be super simple and we'd be in and out like half hour, 20 minutes maybe. Should have looked at the instructions beforehand. But yeah, I mean, it's a good kit. It's well built, well packaged. His directions, his video instructions are really good. So if you're doing this, follow his video instructions. They're great. They're a bit more in detail than what we did. They're very long because he goes into very, very good detail on everything. So anything you have problems with, take a look. And we also found out that there is a blue shirt video. A Diabolical guy.
After the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, we realized there is a video for doing a soft top install where he is wearing a blue shirt. There's another video where he's wearing a gray shirt, and that is when he does the hard top install, which we watched that entire video and followed before realizing there was a blue shirt video. But I think that's going to wrap things up. Thank you, Matt, for coming out here. Be sure to check out Matt at tattoomatt.com. Is that correct?
Yes. And Instagram.
And Instagram.
Tattoomatt71.
Yes, sir. And you can ignore this guy. But I appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time.